බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීග්‍රගාමී රසේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්. බිස්කට් වේදිකාවට දැන් පැමිණි සීග්‍රගාමී රසේ මංචි පොටේටෝ ක්‍රැකර්.
Making headlines tonight, Hambantota port deal. Despite objections from trade unions, amended agreement on southern port inked.
First at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
Also making headlines tonight, alleged discrepancies. National Freedom Front claims cabinet deceived by differences between cabinet paper and agreement on Hambantota investment. Inclement weather. Disaster Management Centre warns residents of Kandy and Nuwara of landslides and mudslides. SAARC Health Ministers deliberate. Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne says he is ready to initiate a SAARC medical university in Sri Lanka. In headlines, news overseas, North Korea tensions. Kim Jong-un says the entire US mainland is now within striking range of its missiles. The much talked about agreement on the Hambantota port was inked today amid ongoing controversy. We begin tonight's broadcast with that story. I'm Indiva Yamuatha. Good evening to you. The amended agreement to lease the Hambantota port to China was signed today between the Sri Lanka Ports Authority and China Merchant Port Holdings. The deal will bring $1.12 billion in investment to the country. The Minister of Ports and Shipping, Mahinda Samarasinghe, has stated that according to a proposal by President Maithripala Sirisena, the agreement will be open to any future amendments.
The Hambantota Port Concession Agreement was signed today at the Ministry of Ports and Shipping. The event was attended by Cabinet Ministers including Minister of Ports and Shipping Mahinda Samarasinghe, Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade Malik Samaravikrama and Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Sabravira, along with officials of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority and other government institutions. Chinese Ambassador to Sri Lanka Yi Xianliang, Executive Vice President of China Merchants Port Holdings Dr. Hu Jianhua and Managing Director of CM Port Dr. Bai Jingtao were among the officials representing China. The agreement was signed by Secretary of the Ministry of Ports and Shipping LP Jayampati, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority Dr. Parakrama Disanayake and Managing Director of CM Port Dr. Bai Jingtao.
With this maritime infrastructure investments and other diverse investments, Sri Lanka will be well positioned to play a strategic role in the One Belt, One Road initiative of the Government of People's Republic of China.
According to the agreement, all properties of the Hambantota port will be handed over to two Sri Lankan companies in which China Merchants Port Holdings is a prominent stakeholder. Hambantota International Port Group Private Limited, 15% owned by SLPA and 85% owned by CM Port, will oversee duties including management, maintenance, funding and terminal functions of the port. Hambantota International Port Services Company Private Limited, with 50.7% shares owned by SLPA and 49.3% shares owned by CM Port, will oversee the port's security, naval services, emergency responses and pollution control. The lease period is 99 years, after which all shares of CM Port and affiliated companies will be transferred to the SLPA at the rate of $1. Furthermore, the Sri Lankan government reserves all rights regarding national security and the investment will be in accordance with all relevant Sri Lankan and international laws and conventions. Minister of Ports and Shipping Mahinda Samarasinghe said the agreement will bring a win-win situation with wide-ranging benefits.
Our objective is not only the development of the Hambantota port, but the downstream projects, which will result in factories coming up, employment creation, income generation, export industries being established. So next to the Mahaveli development scheme, this is the largest investment that has taken place in Sri Lanka.
The minister added that the agreement will be brought up for further debate in Parliament.
It was the President who suggested that we should approve the concession agreement subject to any future amendments that may be necessary. So we have given effect to the President's suggestion by including an amendment in the agreement that was signed today. I think that was a far-sighted suggestion made by the President to debate this in Parliament and give the opportunity to people's representatives to talk about this agreement. If they come with some valuable suggestions, then that must be accommodated.
Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa expressed his views regarding the signing of the Hambantota Port Agreement.
Both of these ports can be maintained simultaneously. But if they feel like closing down the Colombo port, that is possible too. It will be the airport. However, the most important thing here is that they signed this agreement on the same day that the Indo-Lanka agreement was signed years ago. This is an unfortunate era for the country.
And the deputy leader of the National Freedom Front, Jayantha Samaravira, claims that there is a discrepancy between the cabinet paper and the agreement regarding the ownership of the Hambantota International Port Services Company. He made these allegations at a media briefing in Colombo today.
Hambantota Port is given for $1.4 billion. Maithripala Sirisena and Ranil Wickremesinghe have deceived the cabinet. Either this cabinet has been deceived or is deceiving us for a commission. There is a discrepancy between the figures in the cabinet paper and in the agreement. As per the agreement, Sri Lanka Ports Authority only owns 42%, while CM Ports Company owns 58%. We have already lost 8.5 billion rupees from the capital share ownership due to this agreement. The agreement and the cabinet paper show a discrepancy in the ownership of the Hambantota International Port Services Company. This was approved by the cabinet, and when this problem was taken up in Parliament yesterday, the Speaker adjourned the session. They said that the ownership of the Hambantota International Port Services Company belongs to Sri Lanka Ports Authority, but it does not. They have given its ownership to China through this agreement. We will take every action via courts, Parliament and public to stop this illegal agreement.
In the meantime, a protest was organised by the All Ceylon Port Employees Union, claiming that the government disregarded its assurances made to trade unions that the Hambantota Port Agreement will not be amended before signing.
The All Ceylon General Ports Employee Union organised a protest in front of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority this morning, alleging that the government did not follow through on a promise to amend the Hambantota Port Agreement.
The working community condemns signing the agreement in secret. Although you signed the betraying agreement, the working people will not let it be executed in this country.
Several politicians also expressed their views on the signing of the deal today.
It may take 10 or 15 years to develop this port. After 70 years, we have the option to increase our share of the port. If we take back the port in 70 years, we only have to make a small payment. If we exercise our option in 80 years, we have to pay $1. We own the land forever. During the previous regime, the Hambantota port was like an abandoned swimming pool. It was actually maintained by the Colombo port and ships rarely arrived there. That needs to change. We aren't trying to do anything for ourselves through this. Today is the unfortunate day when the port is sold to China. The Prime Minister said not only the Hambantota port, but also the Maha Ilupallama farmlands, land in Uva province and Mattala airport will also be sold. We will vest this port with the public once a government under the leadership of Mahinda Rajapaksa is established. This agreement will surely be cancelled one day.
Moving on from the Hambantota port developments, Sri Lanka's ambassador to the United States, Prasad Karyavasam, has been appointed as the new secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Asala Veerakorn, who held the Foreign Secretary's post, has been named secretary to the Ministry of Tourism Development. Karyavasam spent 3 years as Sri Lanka's ambassador to the United States after being appointed in June 2014. Having joined the Sri Lanka Foreign Service in 1981, he has held diplomatic assignments in Geneva, Riyadh, Washington, New Delhi and New York. The Disaster Management Centre warns residents of the Kandy and Nuwara districts to be cautious about landslides and mudslides due to heavy rainfall. The Deputy Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Pradeep Kodippilly, pointed out that the areas in the Central Hills and Uva province are currently receiving rainfall exceeding 100 millimetres.
Kandy Madala overflowed and around 200 houses were inundated due to heavy rain in Kandy from around 5 this morning. According to our reporter, obstruction of the river caused by the renovation, the Madala caused the houses to be inundated. Meanwhile, heavy rains were also reported over the western slopes of the central mountains. Assistant Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Pradeep Kodippilly, warned of potential landslides and mudslides in Kandy and Nuwara districts, adding that the police and relevant parties are informed of the situation. The police have additionally advised caution when driving in Hatton and Nuwara and on the Hatton-Colombo Road due to mist. 2 young men caught in currents in the Maoya reservoir were rescued by local residents. They were bathing when the water levels of the reservoir started increasing and they were carried away by intensifying current.
Following the mooting of a SAARC medical university in the region by the Secretary General of the SAARC, Amjad Sial, Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne voiced his interest in establishing the institute here in Sri Lanka. The Health Minister made the remark addressing the opening ceremony of the 6th SAARC Health Ministers meeting today.
The 6th SAARC Health Ministers meeting is hosted by Sri Lanka this year. During the 2-day meeting, health ministers and other dignitaries representing all SAARC nations will discuss issues related to public health in the region. Among the most serious health issues faced by SAARC nations is tuberculosis, which challenges the Southeast Asian region as a whole. According to the World Health Organization, TB caused nearly 800,000 deaths in the Southeast Asian region in 2015 alone, while SAARC countries report 3.1 million TB cases annually. Addressing the opening ceremony, Health Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne expressed views on the issue.
32% of the global TB burden is within the region. It is important to note that 1 to 4% of the new cases are multi-drug resistant and 25% of estimated global TB deaths had occurred in the region. The strategic interventions that are being discussed to address reducing the burden of disease due to TB is of paramount importance.
The Health Minister also spoke on diseases being spread within the region because of migration.
1.4 billion in our region are living at risk of contracting malaria. Although Maldives and Sri Lanka has already achieved elimination status, the risk remains due to migration within the region. In this regard, several other diseases such as TB and HIV also have implications for spread due to migration. Whilst health assessments for migrants are important, it is equally important to see how we extend access to care and treatment in the context of providing universal health coverage.
Meanwhile, Secretary General of SAARC, Amjad Sial, suggested the establishment of a SAARC medical university within the region.
I would like to submit for consideration of the Honourable Ministers to make a recommendation to our leaders for the establishment of a SAARC medical university. The creation of such an institution will enable our students to study medicine within the region at affordable cost.
I am very interested about the idea that you put forward today for a SAARC medical university. If the SAARC ministers are ready, I will actually initiate to have it in Sri Lanka.
As the Buddhist calendar moves on from the Asala month, the annual processions took to the streets in the towns of Kandy and Katharagama. With that and other stories making news from across Sri Lanka, we take a look at them in brief.
The historic Asala Perahara at the Temple of the Tooth Relic commenced today, scheduled to continue until the 7th of August. A media briefing was held in this regard on the premises of the Temple of the Tooth Relic this morning. Central Province Minister of Transport Ediri Veera Veeravardhana said special bus services will be deployed for the transportation of people arriving to watch the procession. Meanwhile, the annual Asala Perahara of the Ruhunu Kataragama Mahadevalaya also took to the streets for its 6th day. A large number of devotees arrived at the Ruhunu Mahadevalaya premises to watch the procession last night. The 26th Medical Clinic of the Derana Humanitarian Service commenced at the premises of the Diyasenpura Vidyalaya, Madirigiriya in Polonnaruwa. The clinic aims to diagnose and treat kidney diseases that Polonnaruwa residents may be suffering from. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board announces that there will be an 11-hour interruption of water supply from 8 am to 7 pm. The Pradeshya Sabha areas of Kalaniya, Paliyagoda, Vattala, Biyagama, Mahara, Dompe and Jaila will be affected, along with the Biyagama Investment Zone, Valley Barrier and Ratupaswala.
With a female witness telling the Commission of Inquiry into the central bank bond issuance that former Director of Perpetual Treasuries Arjun Aloysius had paid rental expenses for 6 months for the luxury apartment that Minister Ravi Karnanayaka and his family occupy, several politicians expressed their views on the revelation today.
State fiscal management was handed over to Minister Ravi Karnanayaka under good governance. He aided the bond scam of his own accord. Evidence was given that he was connected to the bond scam. Investigations are underway into our ministers by the commissions appointed by our president. No one can say that there are thieves in this government. The Minister of Finance went to the central bank saying the government needed money and influenced the then governor to make the bond transaction. As a gift, Arjun Aloysius presented him with a house whose rent is $10,000. When Ravi testifies before the commission, he will have to reveal who he gave the 28 million to.
In international business news, the U.S. economy accelerated in the second quarter as consumers ramped up spending and businesses invested more on equipment. But persistent, sluggish wage gains cast a shadow over the growth outlook. More than doubling the first quarter's growth pace, gross domestic product increased at 2.6% annual rate in the April to June period, which included a boost from trade, according to U.S. Commerce Department data. Wage growth, however, decelerated despite an unemployment rate that averaged 4.4% in the second quarter. Inflation also retreated and prices of the U.S. Treasuries rose after the data, while the dollar fell against a basket of other currencies. And we begin with cricket news. In your sports segment, India beat Sri Lanka by 304 runs with a day to spare in the first test of the 3-match series between the two sides. After the visitors declared their second innings close and giving Sri Lanka a target of 550 runs to win the goal at the goal test, they were able to bowl the hosts out for just 245.
Indian skipper Virat Kohli raised his 17th Test century before declaring on 240 for 3, setting Sri Lanka a mammoth target of 550 with the knowledge that no team has successfully chased 3 figures in goal batting last. The Indian seamers then made early breakthroughs with Upul Taranga and Danushka Gunatilaka falling inside the first 6 overs. Dimut Karnaratne was able to build steady partnerships with first Kusal Mendis and then Niroshan Dickwalla, but Indian spinners Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja were able to break both stands. Karnaratne finally fell to Ashwin 3 short of a century, with Nuwan Pradeep and Lahiru Kumara following soon after. With Asela Gunaratne and Rangana Herat unable to bat, the visitors just needed 8 wickets to wrap up the win and take a 1-0 series lead.
And in tennis, home favourites Philipp Kohlschreiber and Florian Mayer prevented the semi-finals of the German Open from being a clean sweep for the Argentine contingent at Hamburg, with wins over Nicolas Kicker and Diego Schwartzman yesterday. Earlier, Federico Delbonis and Leonardo Mayer won to secure their spots in the last 4 of the tournament.
World number 81 Federico Delbonis continued his strong showing with a victory over world number 32 Karin Khachanov 7-5, 3-6, 6-4. He will play Leonardo Mayer, who had an easier time of it as he beat Jiri Vesely 7-6, 6-3. Florian Mayer then halted the Argentine march at Hamburg by beating Diego Schwartzman 6-2, 2-6, 6-3. His semi-final opponent will be Philipp Kohlschreiber, who beat Nicolas Kicker 7-6, 4-6, 6-4.
Shahbaz Sharif, the governor of Punjab and brother of ousted Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, has been lined up to take over the post. In order to gain premiership, Shahbaz Sharif must quit his current post and then win a by-election into Parliament, which should take 45 days. Former Petroleum Minister Shahid Abbasi, a staunch loyalist of former Premier Nawaz Sharif, has been slated to serve as interim Prime Minister. And North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un says the entire US mainland is now within striking range of North Korea's missiles. He made the statement following North Korea's latest test of an intercontinental ballistic missile last night, which was roundly condemned by the international community. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan Ministry of Foreign Affairs also released a statement in opposition to the launch.
North Korea said the intercontinental ballistic missile flew for just over 47 minutes and reached an altitude of over 3,700 kilometers before landing within Japanese territorial waters. Experts say the missile's trajectory showed that major US cities like Los Angeles and Chicago were well within its range, with a possibility of reaching as far as New York City.
Before we wrap up tonight's news, we'd like to take a look at the weather forecast. Inclement weather being reported across Sri Lanka. Fairly heavy rainfall of around 75 millimeters can be expected in the southern region of the country. Showers and thunder showers will also take place in several areas. With that, we should take a look at how the city-by-city forecast will be for the next 24 hours. That's all from your primetime news tonight. But before we go, we'd like to take you to Italy, where hot air balloons from across Europe and South America lit up the sky last night in one of the world's biggest ballooning events, the Sagrantino Cup. Enjoy the visuals and good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.